Welcome to the Uncivil Mentality Podcast. I'm Erik Vidal.
And I'm Reilly Kilbride.
Let's go. Let's go.
We shoot from the hip, brother. We record
Okay.
and we're just candid conversations, brother. You can't fuck this up if you tried.
Awesome. I like it, man.
All right, Logan, we usually try to start this with a little bit of an intro. Tell us your name, where you're from, what do you do, all things Logan.
So my name's Logan Broberg. Currently been on the job 10 years and was just recently promoted 2 weeks ago to lieutenant. So pretty stoked about that. And yesterday I actually had my first official fire as a lieutenant. I mean, I've had fires riding up, but it was nice to kind of get one under my belt after, it was like my third shift riding the seat as an official lieutenant. So that felt pretty good.
That's how you wrote it up. You couldn't have wrote it up better than that.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm a South Florida boy, born and raised. Currently live in Central Florida. Work for the city of Kissimmee. And yeah, just love the job, man. Love talking to people that also love the job and just spreading the good word.
Hell yeah. I know that you've been able to meet Erik, but it's nice to meet you finally, brother. We've been a lot of social media friends, as I like to say. But first, before we get this going, I just want to say it's crazy that I'm having conversations with two dudes that I looked up to in the fire service. Like, first of all, respect to you guys. Like, when I first came into the fire service, I didn't know that there was more people like me out there, like guys that wanted to get after it, guys that were really into fitness. Like, thank you two, for me like being able to be like, yo, there's more dudes than like me out there. So thank you.
Thank you, man. That's super humbling. And I mean, I look up to you too, bro. I've been watching you for a while now. I see you getting after it, in a CrossFit gym. You're a full-time fireman and, you're about to be a dad. So that's going to be another challenge, dude. And
the biggest one.
Yeah, we're all here to lift each other up, man. There's no competition, no ego, man. And I just love it, man. That's one of the great things about social media is you get to meet people that normally you wouldn't get to meet. And like you said, you find your tribe, find like-minded individuals, and you can lean on them. I know sometimes social media gets a bad rap, but I've definitely seen it used more for good than bad, at least from my perspective.
It's a tool. It can be used for good or for bad.
For sure.
So we'll get right into it because the promotion topic is a very juicy one in the fire service. How did you know that you were ready to promote?
So I knew that was ultimately going to be what I wanted to do at some point in my career. But I was told early on in my career, if you want to be a good lieutenant, you need to be a good fireman first. So I spent a good majority of my career, learning the craft of firemanship. I told people this before. My department's super awesome, man. They pay for all fire classes and fire conferences, anything fire service related other than like hazmat and structural collapse. They will pay for everything else up front. If you have to travel, they pay for the travel and they even give you a food stipend. So I've been very fortunate. I've been able to learn from a lot of people, take a lot of classes, really learn the craft, like people say, and then started teaching within my department because they would, say, hey, if we're going to send you out, like you need to come back and share it, which also challenged me. I had to learn how to be a good instructor. And also, I believe if you can teach something efficiently and actually get somebody to grasp what you're trying to show them, it's almost like a mastery level, and then, in my department, we transport and you can, as a fireman, you can go straight to lieutenant in our department. I know some departments it's different. You may have to do some time as a driver first. Our only stipulation is you have to be a ride-up driver and a ride-up lieutenant for a certain amount of time. And for us, you can start riding out of class as a driver at a 1.5 year mark. And for lieutenant, it is, I want to say it's 4 years. And then you can test for engineer at 3 years and test for lieutenant at 5. So I tested for engineer pretty much right at, a little after the 3 year mark, got promoted by year 4, did 3 years as a driver, and then was able to promote to lieutenant. And I was really thankful for my time as a driver. And although it's not a requirement in my department, I can see how beneficial it is because when you become an officer and you have a new driver, you got to kind of show them how to do that job as well. And if you've never really done it, it could kind of be a little bit of a handicap. And I got to learn from a lot of different lieutenants and go to some pretty critical calls and not necessarily be in the hot seat. I'm driving them there. We're shooting it. We're shooting ideas back and forth. But ultimately, it's their decision, and they have to, ride with it and be accountable to it. And I got to, get experience through that without having to actually be in the hot seat. And then obviously, I got a lot of good calls riding up too. And yeah, that's pretty much just what I did. I kind of pretty much your traditional route. I got to be every position that is under me. And yeah, so I'm excited for the new lieutenant role. And I told my crew like I'm not perfect. I'm kind of figuring this thing out, and I'm really excited that I got a lot of young guys under me. So
It sounds like you've had comfortability at each level, and I think that's what makes that trajectory really smooth. Is you're comfortable in the back step, you're comfortable behind the wheel, and comfortable leading from the seat. So I think that's a good idea. Like I don't think that's just such a strange trajectory to have comfortability in be very good at your job before you move forward. I don't think that's a weird thing to say, but sometimes that happens. People get put in positions that they're not ready for. They get uncomfortable, they get disgruntled, and that's where a lot of kind of friction happens in the fire service, I think. But cool, man. I'm super excited for you. It's a very cool first couple shifts getting to fire.
yeah, and it was one of those too. Like we pulled out of the station, and it was like one of the biggest columns I've seen in a while.
We call
Like
that a
no,
no
no,
doubter.
yeah, no doubter, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and it was like we showed up third in, but we're all close to each other, so we're all showing up within a minute or two of each other. We were right behind the second in unit, and there was plenty of work for everybody to do, so it wasn't like we missed out on too much. So
Cool. I think the best leaders and engineers and captains I've been over, they've always they've acted like they're too good to do certain jobs. My captain, every shift, pushes the broom. Like that's his thing. Every shift, he's gonna push the broom. We're gonna do everything else, but he makes it a point to push the broom. And I respect the hell out of my captain so much for that because he's never too good to do that part of the job. And I really respect him way more for that.
yeah, for sure. I think it helps to have buy-in and respect as a leader without having to use your rank to influence people because like I said, I haven't been a lieutenant very long at all, but from what I've seen in my short time in the fire service is people will do what you say because of your rank, but they won't go the extra mile for you versus if they respect you and you develop a good relationship, you have that servant leader type attitude. Like I'm sure you'd be willing to go through the gates of hell for that captain just because of this. And it all compounds. If he's willing to do that for you, I'm sure he's willing to do a lot of other things for you guys. That's
Yeah.
just a small example. And I'm not perfect by any means, like I said, but I've had lieutenants who are like that, and that's kind of my goal is to try to emulate that. And like you said, don't be too. You're never above any problem that you can fix while you're walking by, right? Now, obviously, some days when you're busy, you have to do your lieutenant or officer stuff. You may have to delegate, but it's definitely a balance. And another thing I tell people too is, and you don't have to lead, or you don't have to start leading when you have rank. I think it definitely helps if you start as a fireman. Then if you get promoted to driver, in my opinion, I think the driver is kind of like the heart and soul, can be the heart and soul of the crew, and it could really make or break the officer as well because that I have to lean on my driver a lot to get stuff done for me. I gotta be able to trust him or her to get stuff done and not me have to like verify that they got it done. I just know, hey, they got it done. Or, if they need to take over some of this training because I'm swamped with paperwork or whatever the case is. Going back to going through all ranks, I've had the opportunity when I was a driver, I signed a few people off to be relief drivers. So it was kind of like it forced me, even though I passed the test and I became a driver, it forced me to go back and review everything, and it kind of just reemphasizes everything you learn and makes you get into that mastery level because now you're teaching it back to somebody else and making sure that they can pass their relief driver tests, or even I helped a couple guys, get ready for their promotional driver tests, and they made the list. So that's always a great feeling too, man, is when that hard work pays off and you know that you had a, and it's not for yourself, but it's, you're giving back to them.
I always enjoy having younger firemen working with us sometimes because when we go back and polish those skills that they're working on now, I'm getting the work in too. Like, so I'm teaching you, which is teaching me. That I feel like that's a two-way street when it comes to anything really in the fire service. Really is like when we're helping others, we're also helping ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's that thing that you might not always been training on, and then you train it with a younger firefighter, and you're like, wow, okay, maybe I needed a little brush up on this as well. Um, Erik, what do you think a good quality of a leader is? Like, what kind of leadership do you like?
Well, personally, for me, I like credibility.
Mm.
If you're showing me something, if you're teaching me something, I would like to know that you yourself could do it as well. I think that it's like an unspoken rule, but there is that notion that, okay, credibility, at least for me, coming up in the military, subject matter experts were the ones, passing on knowledge because they themselves have been there and done it. So that's the way I learned. That's the way I was brought up, and that's what I carry with me into the fire service. So key. And then there's another thing called be no do. Be the person you say you are. Know the person you say you are. Do and do what you actually say you're going to do. So
I like
that goes a
that.
long
I
way.
like I like that. There's always different strategies for leadership, and sometimes it's not a one size fit all. And sometimes some leaders are better at some things than others. And I think being able to adapt, especially as a riding backwards, is adapt to different leadership styles. Is kind of like every shift you might have a different captain or you might have a different driver. So be adaptable, flexible, and not rigid in like what's normal.
Along the lines
Um,
of what Logan was saying, how he went to all these different conferences and courses, and now he has to bring it back to the recruit academy to teach it. When someone knows something is when they're able to teach it,
mhm.
right? Break it down and pass that knowledge on to a student or a recruit or even a peer or a mentor. So I really like that, man. I really like that Logan. The first time I heard of Logan or heard his name was on the Prepare to Fight Fire podcast, and what he said was, you know, in training you have to stack the suffering. And bro, when he said that, there was like a light bulb. I was like, man, I've never heard that phrase said in that manner, and that's exactly it. So Logan, tell me, I mean, I always give you credit when I say like, yeah, I heard it from Logan, but where did that notion come from? Where did that phrase come from? Stack the suffering.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, anything I probably say or use, is not mine at all. It's not
Well,
original.
dude, I give you the credit because
Welcome to
that's what
the
I first
Uncivil
heard.
Mentality
Yeah.
Podcast, where we do that shit
But
all the time.
I always do give the credit that I think when I was talking in Julian's podcast, I was talking about one of my best friends, Matt McGee. He's a lieutenant in Orlando, and he's been a huge mentor for me. And that was what he used to tell me when we were training together. And because he was helping me get ready for smoke diver and all that. And, I was always annoying him with questions and what I needed to do to prepare. And finally, one day he's like, dude, you just need to be able to stack the suffering. And he's like, nobody cares what you can do when you're fresh. What can you do when you're tired? That's what a program like that is truly testing. And it's also getting you ready for the job, dude, because you don't know when the worst day of your career is going to be. And not necessarily saying something tragic is going to happen. I shouldn't say worst day. I should say the busiest day of your career. There's nothing stopping you from running 2 to 3 structure fires in a shift, a possible entrapment where you have to extricate somebody out of a car. And then, maybe something crazy happens where a car falls off the bridge. You got to go dive in and get them. And
Fuck yeah.
there's no timeouts, dude. Like you're there for 24 to 48 hours, whatever people work. I know there's some people that work 72 hours, dude. Like, it's, you got to be able to just keep pushing forward. And, like I said, we transport in my department, and some days we're pretty busy for a small department. We run 15,000 calls between 4 stations. And typically, when I try to compare to other departments our size, like we're usually like double what a department our size is, just to put in perspective. It's hard to obviously compare to like a bigger department, and obviously bigger departments are going to have those stations that just run, 20, 30 plus calls a shift. But, we're definitely busier than most. And, it doesn't have to be the good calls either. It can be the calls that necessarily you don't get excited for, and you're running 15 to 18 transports. And then finally that major call comes in and you haven't eaten, you didn't get to sleep, but you're still expected to perform.
One
Thank
of
you.
my I create a schedule for myself on shift, and one of my blocks of time is always a workout. Like I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna get sweaty just for that second, third quarter of the shift to try to, reset and go forward. And guess what? There's days where we're running 10, 12 calls before 12 o'clock. We're busy. But having that time blocked out for me is like I'm gonna do something. Like I have to do something. It has to be done. So even if that's like 20 minutes of just a quick little EMOM or a 20-minute, just working on different skills, like that time, like that's my kind of like what I'm trying to get at is create a schedule for yourself. So if if you're gonna have a crazy day, block that time out. Like have yourself a schedule where you can, depend on that training time. Even if you have 20 calls, give yourself 20 minutes. Like you can get good training in 10, 20 minutes. You can get spicy with the 10-minute little workout for sure. But the tiredness, it happens. The complacency, it happens. It gets us all. I don't think anyone in this conversation or that's going to listen to this is above complacency or getting tired. So just stack the suffering, stack it.
Stack the suffering, man. I'm telling you, the first time I heard it, I was like, I need to get closer to this dude. I need to know who this dude is. And then that's when I reached out to him and I asked him about, his take on fitness in the fire service. And bro, I just want to say thank you because you were super receptive. You were super like compliant. I mean, in a good way, right? Yeah, I'm gonna whatever you need, bro. Hey, I'm here for you, type of thing. There was no ego involved, and even though you said no, I don't think I speak well, bro. I just want your take on it. I mean, it's a disservice to those that don't have access to you to not hear what you have to say on the topic, and I'm just humbled, man, by just how receptive you were and the dude that you are. So thank you for that. Along the lines of that, so rogue firemanship. There's a quote that goes, "The mother of all inventions is necessity." So how did that start? Where do you see that taking like course? Are you still like, is there a goal in mind, or you're just doing it just because you love it? I mean, you have passion for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely passionate about it. So I started it last year. The idea kind of came to me around this time last year, and I finally pulled the trigger, started the Instagram and Facebook page in like December, started an LLC. And originally I was doing it because I work for a private fire college, first response training group. They're out of Orlando. And he started a fire school. Initially, he started out as a paramedic EMT school, and now we do fire school. And he 1099s us. So that was kind of a way to kind of help start writing stuff off for like training, because I've been going all over for training and paying out of my pocket. And it's like, well, now get a little bit of tax break. And for years, a bunch of my buddies at the station are like, dude, you need to make a page, like, because I was always posting just on my personal page. And they're like, we think you'd be good at it. I'm like, I don't know, dude, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, I don't have that business mindset. I kind of put myself in that box.
Hmm.
And I got on the job when I was 21, and I kind of worked like fun jobs before this. I did construction on my dad, and then I was a lifeguard. So I always had a steady paycheck and never had to like be creative or, kind of figure out how to like, do stuff like that on a business side. So started it out, made the business, started out just like, I just thought it was cool to be able to make a logo and, have some stickers like, because I was always following all these other pages and, fanboying over, all these other pages. And, um, so I finally pulled the trigger. And then a lot of guys were asking me for like fitness programs, and it was kind of hard for me to really like give them anything. So I finally made a 12-week program, and then I decided to get certified in being able to write programs. That way, not that I didn't have validity, but just that we say like, hey, look, I went through a professional
Was
personal
was that an
training
OPEX
course.
course?
Yeah, OPEX. I went through
Yeah, I
their.
saw you train at an OPEX place.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of our coaches are OPEX people, so
So I
that's
went through
cool to see.
their CCP course. I really liked their style,
Yeah.
and because it's like OPEX, their philosophy is more tailored to the individual instead of the group. So it's a box style gym, but there's coaches there that work there, and they're constantly on the floor to help with technique and help you if you don't know how to do a certain lift. But it's individual programs, which I think is a lot better in the long run, as opposed, just in my opinion, as opposed to, a CrossFit style gym where you show up, it's the WOD of the day. They don't necessarily know what you did yesterday. And it's just more of like just a
Tailor
client.
made,
Yeah, it's like a tailor-made type
specific. Okay.
Yeah, when you have specific
program.
goals, you need a
Yeah,
specific program.
exactly.
That's
So I always like the way they do it. And, from what I had heard, as far as like CrossFit certifications, it's not as tailored to be individual. So went through that course. Didn't really think anybody would sign up, to be honest. Was like, I figured out maybe five of my buddies, because they feel bad for me, will like want me to write the program in for them.
dude, I
And
tell my mom to watch our YouTube channel, so
yeah,
yeah.
it just kind of blew up, dude. Honestly, it's been super humbling. I came out with that 12-week Rogue Operator program, and like people were, really into it. And it
Yeah.
was kind of a good segue for people to see my style of training. And then I was able to get people to sign up for one-on-one coaching, depending on whatever their goals were. And, like I had said before on other podcasts, when I was coming up on the job, you would see like a tactical athlete program, or like a program they say is for firefighters, or a CPAP prep.
Mhm.
There was nothing in gear, dude. Like it would just a generic fitness program, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I felt like people were not necessarily prepared for the demands of the job, because as you guys know, training in your gear and doing things in your gear on the fire ground are completely different. Like you can look like a fitness model, but if you're not used to the work capacity, like you're not going to perform like you should. So that was kind of how it came about. It was also an outlet for me to share my experiences and opinions on the fire service, and hopefully motivate people to get better. And like I've said before too, it's not a competition or an ego thing. Like, I don't care if people sign up for my program, or they sign up for John Sparrow's program, Fit to Fight Far, Marcos Orozco's program. If you guys start writing programs or you're sharing workouts, like, I don't care, dude. I just want people to get fit for the job. And
Hell
not
yeah.
everybody's style will mesh with other people and their personalities. I've even told people, that I was writing programs for like, no hard feelings, but this isn't, working out. I don't think we jive well together. You're not putting in the time, and I can't help you if you're not putting in the time and effort.
That's that OPEX, baby.
Yeah.
So
Reminds me of Tony Spear, what he was saying about dealing
yeah,
with clientele. So shout
yeah.
out to Tony Spear. Also, Justin Pacifico, he recently mentioned that you said that gear is the ultimate equalizer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Full stop. Yes, we
Dude,
know.
you're clip worthy, man. Like you have these little gold. Like I was gonna ask you later. I have some notes, but when do we get the Logan Broberg podcast? Like when's that happening?
I don't have any desire to do a podcast. I'm so
The
busy
streets need it,
now.
man. The
I'm a
streets
new,
need it.
I'm a new dad. I'm running the business. I'm
Yeah.
teaching still, and focusing on some of my goals that I'm still trying to do. So I had thought about it a couple years ago, and same thing. I just never hit record or pulled the trigger. And that's what kind of also pushed me to finally pull the page, because like I've been thinking about doing something. And it's funny that you say the one-liner thing. My firemen, dude, they give me such a hard time every time I say one at the station. They're like, "Oh, we're adding it to the book." And they're gonna have a printout book of all my one-liners.
Look, man, maybe it's not right now, maybe it's later, but we'd listen. People would listen,
I
man.
appreciate that, dude. I enjoy being a guest, man. It's easy to just show up a certain time and not have to
Yeah.
worry about. I just gotta make sure my technology works. I don't gotta
Yeah.
worry about editing. I don't gotta worry about.
Well, our real MVP is Mel, is our executive producer, man. She takes care of us and she makes it easy for us. So thank you for
Yeah.
her. But that was a great segue. My next question for you is you have a lot of spinning plates, man. You do a lot of things. You're very busy. Strategies for people to balance life, like work-life balance. have you ever been overwhelmed? And what do you do when you're overwhelmed? And how do you bring that back to center?
I would say I don't always know when I'm overwhelmed, but I'll know when my wife's had enough. And all right, I gotta tone it back a little bit, and she's always been 100% supportive, and I always make sure that I share that because I wouldn't be where I am today without her. But I would say you just have to focus on what your priorities are, and like I said, I'm not the greatest at balance.
Me
I'm one of
either.
those dudes. I'm an all
That's
or nothing
me
type of
either, man.
guy, and it consumes me. I'm one of those dudes like if I get into mountain biking tomorrow, like I'm gonna be all in, dude. I'm buying
Yep.
the nicest bike. I'm getting all the gear. I'm finding out where all the trails are. Like
Yep.
that's just me.
Yeah.
But because I get a lot of questions about how I like, keep up with my fitness more or less, and also, make time for the crew, make time for family. And I think the easiest answer is to make it um make it like a low entry or low barrier thing. So, if you have a fitness goal, depending on what it is, but you're short on time for the day, but you need to get something in, maybe just do 100 burpees for time. And for most people, that shouldn't take more than, the fastest I've ever done it was like six and change, but
That's
hopefully
fast.
no more than 10 to 15, maybe 20
Yeah.
minutes, and that's something. Or, like earlier today, I knew when my daughter was going to fall asleep for a nap, I put her in the stroller and went on a 3 mile ruck. And I'm hoping I can get some weights in later. But I've
Mhm.
also set my life up to where it's easier for me to get stuff done. I have a garage gym
Mhm.
and things like that. Not saying that that's what you need. But I'm also the same as you, Reilly. Like I try to set time aside on shifts if I can to get things done. If I can spend 30 minutes reading something about the job, 30 minutes to an hour on fitness. And if that means I have to get into work early before shift to get it in, and everything else is extra credit after that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, being a lieutenant now, I got to see what the crew's needs are. If they're getting ready for a promotional test, I got to set time aside to help them. Or if they have a question about training or that I have a pro B, I got to, set aside for that. So, like I said, I'm not perfect at it, but you just have to kind of compartmentalize, prioritize, and execute.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there is work life balance. Like we talked to Maldine Dave a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about there's not a balance. It's like a focus. Like you just have to stay focused on what you need to do and be present really. So now I'm just taking notes as a soon to be dad of how to balance all my plates. I have personal goals. I have a business. I have a wife. I have the fire department. So it's just if I can take any little notes of how that all that you juggle all of that, I was gonna take some. But yeah, man, thank you for that. My
I
next
will
question
also,
is,
all right. I will also say, because my mentor Matt used to say this to me too, is if it truly is important enough to you and a priority, you will make time for it.
100%.
that's
Maybe you
solid.
don't watch Netflix tonight. Instead of
Yeah.
watching Netflix, you go grinding out in the garage for an hour, or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
And it's not always perfect. Like I said, being a dad, I've had to learn to adapt.
Yeah, I
Especially
saw the swing in the garage gym that once. That made me laugh.
yeah, yeah, dude. I would. She loved the swing, man. So I would put her in the
Got to
swing,
get it done.
and I'd push her, and sometimes she'd fall asleep, or sometimes she'd just watch me and be like, it's kind of cool because she was just like entertained with what I was doing, and so I was able to get something in, and then
Totally.
because I'm the type of person, and I'm sure you guys are the same. I have to get some sort of physical activity in almost every day,
Mm.
or else I like lose my mind.
I have to for sanity, and
Yeah, we
it's
are.
therapeutic.
Yeah, we have to do that. We have to drain, like, have
Something.
to tire the hamster out on the wheel, or the hamster gets wild.
Yeah, because I don't drink anymore. Really, I don't do
Yeah.
nicotine. My only vice now is caffeine, and like I have to work out, dude. Like you know, I, I would much rather go do like something hard in the gym or go on a ruck or maybe like run than go to the bar. You know,
Totally.
Yeah,
so
we understand. Yeah, bro. I'm right there with you. I stopped
There
drinking
is, like I
alcohol.
said, there's more of us out there. There's guys that have all
Yeah.
of these same check boxes that we keep talking about.
it just
Obsessive
wasn't.
compulsive, need to
I think
work out.
I think you guys have talked about it too. Like it just got to a point, and I never had like an issue or anything with alcohol by any means. It was always social, but it got to the point where it just wasn't worth it anymore. Like I'm a little older now. I'm 31. Not that that's old by any means, but I can't drink like I used
Ah, Logan, shut up, bro.
Yeah,
to.
dude, I'm 32.
No, like I don't. To me, being hungover is not cool, man. I'd rather be sore or something, or go
Yeah,
do a
dude.
workout. And
Yes, sir.
I
Yeah.
finally gotten to the point where I can feel comfortable being around people that are drinking and not feel obligated to drink, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
It does. Yeah, you're sure of yourself, and you don't have to like succumb to like pressure or you know dumb yourself to a certain level or nah, you're over it. So
Eric, you still off caffeine?
I'm off caffeine, bro.
God
Still,
bless
still
you.
staying strong?
Well,
Wow.
yeah, because the
Man, God's
caffeine,
warriors out here,
when
dude.
you're
Just
in
doing.
gear, it gets you to that point quicker. It
It
Yep.
gets,
does. It does. I gave it up one year, like 2 or 3 months before I was going through Florida Smoke Diver. I think it was my second or third attempt, and I gave it up like I want to say I gave it up like almost 2 months before, dude. Like cold turkey, gave it up. But then once I got back on it, I was like, I'm never giving it up again.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
I think it does help a little bit with your resting heart rate,
Well, for
and
me, right.
yeah,
And
you just have to
psychologically, like
time it out and not
we're
do
not
too
gonna
much.
use it up there. I mean, I'm not gonna have it up there accessible to me, so
Right?
I would rather
Yeah,
just do without.
yeah.
Just
I
train
just do
how
it
I
with
fight.
it.
Yeah. I mean, it
But
works for you,
everybody's
my
different
dude.
for sure.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah, it works for
moderate
you.
dosage. There's a moderate dosage that is kind of like a middle ground that's not going to jack me up too much, but you know when you go too far down the rabbit hole, caffeine, which I'm telling you, Logan, you need your own podcast, bro, because that was a great segue to my next question. Your, I've listened to a lot of podcasts that you've been on, and you've talked about you've had multiple setbacks. You didn't have the golden rainbow, right to the tippy top of all your goals. You've had to deal with a lot of adversity. So without like going in depth of like all of the stories, how do you deal with setbacks when people, don't achieve what they want to do or you didn't get the goal that you wanted? How did you, refocus and then get back to task?
Well, I think the short answer is there's really, and I know it sounds cliche, but there really is no failure, unless you seriously like hurt yourself or, die. I think there's always a learning lesson involved. And, you know, it takes a lot for somebody to put themselves out there and do something that they're not guaranteed to succeed in. And that's life, right? None of us were guaranteed this fire job that we got. You had to test for it. I mean, I talked to Erik about this before. Like, it's nothing like it is today. Back in the day, dude, it was a freaking dogfight to even just get a job, right? And then you finally get on the fire department and they don't just hand promotions out. At least you hope they don't, you know? So I think it's just prepares you and it also um it makes you better, man, because you're getting out of your comfort zone and whatever your goal is, it's not the outcome that makes you better, it's the process. It's kind of like I don't really follow bodybuilding too much anymore, but I used to be into it when I was younger. And I don't know if you guys just saw C-Bomb's speech,
The
Yeah,
legend.
right, dude? Like he's
yeah.
not the only one.
Hmm.
What did he say? I think that was his sixth Mr. Olympia,
Six straight Miss Olympia, correct.
but it wasn't the gold medals around his neck, dude. It was the process from before he won his first one to today, dude.
Hmm.
That's what it's about. And there's
people
lessons to be
people
learned in
see
that.
the end result, they don't see the journey. That's what I think we were talking about, this double-edged sword with social media, is that they see the Ferrari at the finish line, but they weren't with you when you were riding in that Honda Accord.
And don't get me wrong, dude, it hurts. It hurts, bro. I'm not telling
Mhm.
you it don't hurt. It hurts when you
Yeah.
don't reach your goal. Like for instance, this lieutenant promotion, right? 2 years ago I took the test, studied my ass off, dude. I put everything I had into the process. I paid for a consultant. If you guys don't know who Captain Mark Rossi is, he's a captain for Fort Lauderdale. He owns Rockstar Training and Consulting. He does promotional consulting, dude. He helped me out a lot, dude. Like he gave me time out of his day. Obviously, there was some financial commitment for his time, but he gave me basically a blueprint to help me with the promotional process. Plus, I had to read all the SOGs, procedures. They gave us, I'm not even lying, they gave us 3 textbooks on top of all that to study, right? So put a lot of time in. I scored a 94 overall, right? Pretty good score. Got fifth.
Damn.
Competitive test, right? And, there's some uncertainty on if I was gonna get promoted or not. But now I got promoted 2 years later. Luckily didn't have to retest again, but I still put myself out there. I could have possibly failed the test. Luckily I guess what I'm trying to say is just because you work hard doesn't mean you're always going to be successful. And it's not always about the success that makes you who you are. There's some luck involved, and I hate to say that, but sometimes there is, man.
Yeah.
And when you're doing something like that at a high level, whether it's a promotional exam or you're going through a smoke diver course or you want to run a marathon, an ultra marathon, whatever it is that you do, right? And you're putting yourself out there amongst other high performers, sometimes you just have a bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
Simply
toe the line
stated.
there, man. If you're putting like you said, the theme that I hear when you speak is your ability to put yourself out there and do the things that you want to do is that's the part, that's the good part. That's like the life nutrients. I use that term a lot. It's like that's the good shit in life. Is like putting yourself out there to do something that scares the shit out of you. And you two you two guys are guys that do that continually. Like I think that's your like default setting is that you're always putting yourself in this new fucked up situation to try to see how you react and where you sit, which is super inspiring to people. So that's dope. I'm taking notes.
You're
Yeah, I
too
mean,
kind, Riley. You're too
It's
kind,
just
my
what it
man.
is, brother.
you gotta get out of your comfort zone, like for you, for instance, right? You own a CrossFit gym. Any CrossFit competition you enter, like not to say that there's a target on your back, but people are watching you because they're like, oh
Mhm.
man, Reilly, or if it's people that go to your gym, they're like, Reilly owns CrossFit gym, like he should crush this. And that's not
That
always
sometimes
necessarily
sucks
the case.
because I'm not that
Yeah,
fit.
I get it too, man. I joke with the guys on my crew because, they always bring up that I'm a Georgia smoke diver, and it's like, you guys bring that up more than I do. I'm just here to live it, man. I just took a class that I happened to pass and I was training for a long time for, you know, but it's true. You have to, whatever it is you do, you have to earn it every day. Like you're a CrossFit owner, so you're expected to perform at some sort of level as a CrossFit athlete. So I think that's the hard part too. Is not necessarily obviously failing is hard, but even when you succeed, you can't rest on your accomplishments.
Mhm.
That's like yes, that's what happened yesterday. That's in the past, man. What are
Yeah.
you doing to get better? What are you doing? What's your next goal? What's your, there's levels to this.
I was talking to my wife this morning. We had a big fire last night, big scene, there for a long time. You know, did the job, fucking best day of my life. But then I get home and I'm talking to her and I was like, you know what's crazy about being a fireman is that you do something like that and then no one cares. Like everyone's normal life just operates normal. Like I go back to my CrossFit gym and I'm the CrossFit owner gym guy. And no one like you have to my mindset is that no one cares about your last shift, dude. It's okay, I go back to work in one day and I got to earn that shit every day. Like we get to do this great job. We have the best job in the world, but you got to show up willing to earn it every day. And I love that. That keeps me on my shit all the time. Is that it is every day is the tryout.
Yeah, and you got to pay it forward, man, because
Hmm.
there's constantly guys coming up under us that you have to show them the way. And it's up to us to make the culture we want in our department. Because
Hmm.
you get assigned a new guy, right? And things always happen in the department. There's always movement going on. You develop them how you want them, and it sucks because you get attached, and then they go somewhere else, but they almost become like your little messenger then. And hopefully they keep that culture going and they're able to infect somebody else. And then it's just like a domino effect.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be more voices. You were talking about all the guys that, all the programs that are out there, all the fire like pages that are out there. There needs to be more of us, until the things that kill firefighters isn't obesity and heart attacks. Until that's not 80% of what kills us, then there needs to be more of us. Like we need to promote this culture and be, our voices need to be heard louder. So I don't think there's never going to be too many of us. I hope everything I see on the internet is firemen working out. Like I love that. Like I love seeing that, and I think that's gonna help us going forward. I don't know. There needs to be more of us out there. That's how I feel, honestly. It's not a competition. We need to be screaming from the rooftops.
Yeah, it's like I told my crew the other day, like my idea of a good shift is not the calls we run, it's not, how many fires we get. It's can we train together? Can we work out together and can we eat together
Mm.
and spend time together? That's like my ideal, good shift. And I think if you have a culture like that, dude, if you have a culture in your firehouse like that, it's an unstoppable firehouse.
So my next question is everyone sees the workouts, everyone sees, and this is a question for you and Erik, is that everyone sees the workouts, everyone sees us grinding and getting after it. But my question is, what does a rest day look like to you?
So for me, a rest day will either be like a complete rest day where I don't do anything other than maybe just walk,
Mhm.
or I'll do like an active recovery day where I'll ride, either a rower, a bike, or do the ski erg, or do a ruck, stuff that's low impact, but
Mhm.
still gets the blood flowing. Because I've realized over the years that on days I was really sore, if I didn't do anything, it was like worse.
Felt
Versus
worse, yeah, for sure.
going, moving a little bit. And I know like, the first couple strokes on the rower or the first couple steps suck, but then once you get the blood flowing, it kind of flushes some of that stuff out. So, and obviously lots of water,
Mhm.
electrolytes, especially down here in Florida. It's super hot and humid.
For sure. What about you, Erik? What's a rest day look like for you?
Nah. So along the lines
He
of
said, nah, I don't know what that is.
committing
Don't.
and going all in, like when I love something, I gotta have it. I just have that personality, right? All in. I want it, I gotta have it. So I'm aware that if I stop just to chill, stop and chill, I'm gonna stop and chill for the rest of the week. So I
Mm,
just choose not to do that, right? So whether it be a 10-minute imam or like Logan, go for a walk, just get out, get the blood flowing, do something.
yeah.
But a completely rest day of not doing shit, I mean, I think I have to be hospitalized. Because even when I got back from Georgia, I still went on a run the next day, right?
Mhm.
And then I had the weekend to recover, and then I was back on shift on Monday. So active recovery, this is the rest day. You're still
Mhm.
moving, you're still doing something, get the blood flowing. Because like I said, if I'm gonna chill with the best of them. I'm not gonna do shit. So I just rather not do that. Just
Yeah.
like I can't have a piece of cake. I can't have a bite of a cookie. I eat the whole cake, the whole pie, or the whole box of cookies. I'm not just so I just refrain from doing that. I just don't put myself into temptation and have the will and discipline to not do those things. Um, Logan, full transparency. When I was on my way to Georgia, I listened to your podcast on Danny B's Student of the
Oh yeah.
Game. I listened to John Sparrow's Student of the Game podcast. I listened to Marcos Orozco's Student of the Game podcast. And I listened to Chief David Rhodes' Student of the Game podcast regarding Georgia smoke divers. What I vividly remember from your podcast was the multiple attempts to Georgia smoke diver now, whether it's taboo to bring it up or whatnot, bro. Just give me a little insight into the mindset and mentality of going back again and the whole fail forward, uh, I guess, mindset regarding the rogue firemanship and you as a person. Because it says a lot about your testament, man. It says a lot about your character. Because when I was up there in Georgia, I'll say this: this is the last time I'll be up here. I'm not doing this bitch again. I'm not coming up here and doing this shit again. I'm not. So it was either pass or fail, but I wasn't gonna put myself in that situation again. So talk to me about that, man, just a little bit.
Yeah. So, like I said before, I went to Georgia first, and then I didn't get into Georgia the next year, so I ended up doing Florida. Kind of got bit by the Florida smoke diver bug. Also, it was way closer to my house. It's only an hour and like 10 minutes from my house as opposed to like a 9 hour drive to Dalton. So I did that like 4 times in a row. And, you know, I just, every time I went, I got better. And I just got addicted to the progress I was making. And also, it was just such a I thought it was, as much as it sucked while you're in it, when you look back, it really is such an experience and it's such a, um, privilege to be able to go through a program like that, because you're around what I would call the 1% of the 1% of firefighters, dude. You got guys who are into the job. And, I say this all the time. Like, I was always the low performer out of the group in the class as far as like fitness, I would say, and you got these dudes who are just like complete studs, humble, no ego, and like, people that I look up to, and you're just surrounded by that. So it's just addicting. And you're all getting pushed to you're getting pushed past your perceived limitations. And then you're just kind of bonded to that suffering. So I just got addicted to that. And I know you say you wouldn't go back, but dude, once you go there and you experience it, everybody goes back, bro. And I'm not the only one who's gone through Florida multiple times. I have a bunch of buddies who have gone through as many times as me, or maybe a little less. And it's kind of hard to describe to somebody who hasn't gone before. And I just kind of accepted the fact they would never understand until they experience it. And I know many people have told me that it's admirable that I've gone back so many times, but I never really thought of it like that because it was kind of from a selfish standpoint, because I was always getting better. My skills were always getting tested. It was kind of more for this. I just never thought of it like that, if that makes sense. I guess I'm in the mindset that everybody would go back. So I didn't think it was that admirable. But it felt good after I felt Florida. I was kind of done with the whole smoke diver thing, to be honest. I'd said this before. I was like, what else do I have to do? I've dedicated at that point 4 to 5 years of hard training, and kind of was starting to feel sorry for myself, like maybe it's not meant to be. And then I got into the Georgia program, and I hadn't gone back. I never went back yet because I was going through Florida. So I'll give Georgia a try. Maybe it's something different. And I was successful. And because I get asked all the time too, like, which one? It's such a low hanging fruit question, but they always ask which one's easier. And honestly, they're both equally as hard. They're just hard in a different way, and you really can't compare the two. They have the same principles as far as like they're making you a better fireman. They're teaching you. That's also another myth people like to say, is that they don't teach. That's a complete lie. Both programs teach you fireman skills, and they just have different syllabuses more or less, but it's the same skills. They're teaching survival. They're teaching SCBA confidence and consumption. You're doing RIT drills. You're doing searches. You're doing fire attack, all that stuff. So.
Exactly. So I'm not gonna lie, I listened to that Danny B podcast too, and it was one of those that like I stayed in the car I was already in my parking spot, and I was just like, hold on, I can't fucking get out of the car yet. I gotta keep listening to this. It was wild. I mean, super inspirational, and honestly lit the fire in me to look into the program and get involved. So I think that's what the goal is to inspire, and you've definitely done that. So
so I just wanted to hear your take on the mindset, and for you to voice it and say it out loud, and for it to be tangible on this podcast, because similar just thoughts.
You had nothing to lose, man.
100%. And what's the alternative? So what would you have me do? Not train and not be better, not be better at my job and be a professional about my career, my profession? What would you have me do? What's the alternative?
I will say that, because I have plenty of great firemen who are not smoke divers,
No, okay. Granted, I'm not saying that, but
all it is a test, man. That's it. You're just testing yourself. You're testing your skills. You're testing your mental resolve, because like Chief Rhodes has said too, these are words straight out of his mouth. The scenarios that they make you do in the Georgia Smoke Diver program are simple scenarios. They're not necessarily easy, but they're simple, right? But when you do them when you're fresh versus when you do them on day 3 or 4 of the Smoke Diver program, it's completely different. The first 2 to 3 days, they're trying to wear you down to get you into a position where you have mental and physical stress, and they're trying to see the decisions you make in that so-called like simple scenario, right? I mean, would you attest to that, Erik? It was not anything.
No, yeah.
Very basic, fundamental fireman skills, but done
under duress. Yes, sir.
But they expect you to do it efficiently, proficiently, under high stress.
Right. Yeah. And I know that episode where Chief David Rose speaks about that. He said, we can't get you to this point in a civilian academy or a place outside of Dalton. You have to come here or not. We have to put you through the ringer. You have to experience the duress, the low sleep. On day 3, 4, and 5 is when you're actually tested. So my perspective is, you know, you train in the morning, you do the PT, you just earn your keep in the class. That was my switch. And I got to day three where I was like, on day three, it was back to day one. And I was telling myself on day three, we're back to day one. And aren't we supposed to like finish the program? So after day three, the quitting was not an option. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to finish the program. It depends on my livelihood. So Chief David Rose also spoke about luck being a factor in the program because you could do everything right. You could be prepared. You could do everything in preparation for the program, but you blow out your shoulder or you get injured in the program or whatnot. So luck does play a factor in it, like you were saying earlier.
Or you get sick.
Or you
I,
get sick, or you eat with your hands
I get
dirty,
sick.
and now you have the bubble guts. And
Or even the flu, man. I
yeah,
got sick near the night before Florida snow diver. I got sick with the flu, man, and only made it
Jesus.
days. You know, and one of my
yeah,
buddies, same thing. Nobody knows who he is because he has no social media, but he's honestly one of the best and toughest firemen I've ever known. It's his name's Nick Gerchek. He works for Daytona Beach. He was my partner 1 year at Florida, and dude, he made it all the way to the second to last day. It was one of the last scenarios before the final, and he was sick all day with food poisoning.
Mm.
And he still pushed through, got it done, but then they ended up pulling him because of medical reasons. The medical director happened to be there that day and said it wasn't safe for him to continue.
yeah.
Just something that unlucky. We were crushing it together all week, dude, and we know exactly what it was. We got Wendy's the night before because there's not a lot
Oh,
around. There's not a lot around the campus that we were at. He got
yeah.
a chicken sandwich. I had a hamburger, and I think the chicken fucked him up, dude. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just unlucky.
When you were able to accomplish Georgia, when you showed up day one, did you feel like you were fully prepared? Like, did you feel ready? We've talked about this like ready state of, did you think you were ready?
So for me personally, so the first year, I failed out during the first PT session. So for whatever reason, when I showed back up, even 6 years later, I was like had not anxiety, but I was stressed out about the first PT session because that's where I'd failed before. I remember like we were walking out to the grinder and I went through with Matt and Basil and I told them after we finished the day, I was like, dude, when we're walking out there and we started PT, I don't know what it was. It was like true fight or flight. I had the worst cotton mouth I've ever had in my life. Like I couldn't even swallow. My mouth was so dry. And then once I got through the first PT session, that was kind of when I got locked in. And I was like, I'm not leaving unless they ship me back down south in a body bag. And that mindset did carry me through the program because there were some moments where I had to dig deep and push
Mhm.
through, and that was kind of the mindset that I had. So yeah, you always feel you're always gonna have like you're always gonna feel like you never did enough
Mm.
Yeah.
when you're going into something like that.
Yeah,
So breaking bread with Logan, right? And I'm gonna give you your flowers, saying that you are the dude you say you are, right? I, I,
You do
I've
appreciate it.
sat, I've sat down with you. We've spoken. We broke bread, and it was just super cool to be among you and your presence, man, at floor selection. So
yeah, it
yeah,
sounds
man.
like it's going down in February, boys.
Yep, going back, dude. Going back every day or every year till I get it, man.
I've always heard a quote, it's hard to beat a guy that won't quit.
Yeah,
Like that's just that sounds that's when
but
you come to mind with that
I
saying.
don't I don't feel that special, I do, because I'm telling you, everybody goes back, man. They all go back. It may not be the following year because of maybe family or they just have a kid or something, but everybody that I've ever gone through a smoke diver program with, they've always made it back. So
Yeah,
I'm
I don't.
not anybody special.
But you just catch, like you just find the next rabbit or the carrot to chase. Like you have this thing and you accomplish it, and then you just find the next big
It's
thing
a
and
it's a
chase it.
lifestyle, man. This is
Yeah.
how I train for the job, and the smoke diver program is just a test, dude. I'm not training for the program. I'm training to be the best fireman I can be. And I tell people that too. And sometimes it gets twisted, but I tell people like just because you can do 100 burpees in gear doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great fireman. It just means you're a tough fireman in gear.
what would they, well conditioned, an athlete in turnouts. I think Rob Ramirez
Yeah,
dropped
and I
that.
think it got a little misconstrued. And I think some people were
No,
upset about it. But if you really listen to what he's saying, it makes
yeah,
sense. You have to
Yeah,
be
no,
you have to be well rounded, right?
for sure.
If me, Logan, Lieutenant Broberg is a fucking stud in gear as far as just working out. But I go up to the front door and it's a fucking trap house that has like 10 locks on it. And I'm doing baton twirls at the front door with the Halligan because I don't know, I didn't actually pour into the craft of being a good fireman, then I'm useless. Right. It kind of goes
yeah.
back to, like I said, I know what he said got misconstrued, but
No, I defended Rob, and I
I
believe in the whole maiden
understand what he
mindset.
was trying to say, right? You have to
Yeah,
be well rounded.
yeah,
Put as much time into your fitness for the job as you do studying the craft, and you will probably be very successful in any type of smoke diver program
You got
because
to do both.
while they
You got
do
to do
teach
both.
you, and Erik can attest to this, yes, they do show you stuff, but it's like they show you once, you look at it, you maybe practice one time, and then it's go. You,
correct.
so you kind of have to have a good base to increase your learning curve, if that makes sense.
Is there
Under
strategies
duress.
or training you can do to progression? See, learn, do. Like, is there something that you could practice to practice that skill?
Yeah, I would just like learn the basic fundamental of a skill, right? And do the walk, crawl, run
Mhm.
method. How do you teach somebody how to do a power clean at your gym? Do you put 135 pounds on the bar or do you have them start with a broomstick?
No, broomstick for sure.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's the same thing to use the broomstick method, right? So
Mhm.
perfect example. I love doing a drill like this because I'm really big on firefighter rescue, right? So in our department, we have pick-off straps that we use to do firefighter packaging. So I start out, especially when we have new guys, I still have them do it with their fire gloves on, but they package the fireman with the strap while they can see. And I kind of leave it up to them, but I tell them like get your reps in, right? Because we got to build on this. So they get their reps. And then I have them do it blind. And then I like to do a drill. And this I kind of got this from Jason Worthy. So shout out to Jason Worthy.
Hell yeah, that's our boy.
Um, he calls it the Rick Gauntlet. It's like, all right, so three or four of us are all going to lay down now, and we're going to take turns rescuing each other. But the caveat is we're going to go until each person hits vibe or suck down to the bottle, just depending on how much work we want to do that day, because we got 45-minute bottles. But our goal is to get as many rescues on one bottle as possible. So if I'm the first one to go, three of my buddies are all in the bay. I go, one guy sets his pass off. I go find him. I package him whatever way I want, and then I drag him to where I started. And then once I drag him back, the other dude hits his pass off, and then it's like a round robin. And dude, we did that. We did it one day, and it's a ball buster of a drill, and it really reinforces how good are your uh, how good are your skills under when you're tired.
Mm, writing
And
that one down.
so
Writing that
yeah,
one down.
he sent that one to me, and I did it, and I sent it. I messaged him back and was like, "I hate you." And then I was like, "My probies hate you too,"
Yeah.
because one of the guys I was dragging, dude, he's over 300 in gear.
Ooh.
He's 250. Well, he lost some weight. He's 240 walking around in gear, and that's one of the guys I was dragging, dude. So, that's just one example. But another example, if you have a forcible entry door at your station, same thing. Get your reps in when you can see, or with your fire gloves on, whatever. Or start out with mechanics gloves, then do fire gloves. Then can you do it blind? And then if you can do it blind, how about we put a bike in front of the door and you do a 10 cal bike and force the door,
Hell yeah.
or you can do it with anything. You can do it with stretch and hose,
Hmm.
or searching, or doing a VES round robin. Same thing. You just have to build up on it.
Yeah,
And
add that confidence, that earned confidence in the skill progression that you're talking about, and then add some. We did a forceful entry class with my buddy JJ, and the last scenario after the 2 days we've been working on it was like a door prop in a like a shed with German rock and roll like blaring. So
yeah,
like it was just like you
sensory
and a
overload.
partner. Yeah, that was the last scenario of the day. It was a little extreme, but I mean, you had to be sound. You had to know your technique. You had to, you couldn't fake it at that point. So you had to. It was pretty fun.
And I'm not saying go out and kill your pro B, right? You got to start, lay the foundation, and then build them up. Or, same thing. If you are truly wanting to be tested in a smoke diver type program or flames or whatever the course is, like that's the type of training you have to be doing. And on top of that, stack it on, maybe go for a 3 to 5 mile run in the morning. And then when you get to work, do whatever training you got to do for the day. And then in the afternoon, you're doing something like that. So where you got 2 to 3 training sessions in a day to kind of simulate how you're going to feel when you're tired and worn down.
For sure. Man, I think that this trio could probably talk all afternoon about this, but man, Logan, we love you for coming on the podcast, and we appreciate you talking. We usually like to end this with, we've talked about, sound clips, but what's a mantra that you use when you're under distress or you're in the pain cave, when you're going through it?
So it's changed for me, but after I had a pretty big injury last year to where I couldn't even train or work out for a little bit. So now it's like, I get to do this. I get to do this.
Hell yeah.
It's forcing me, I'm just grateful that I was able to make a full recovery and I'm able to train the way I was training before, because how many people out there don't get to do what we do, when you're riding on the engine or the rescue or the ambulance and it's your 18th call of the shift, I get to do this.
Yeah, that's a centering and like very humbling
stoic
in the moment. Yeah,
very stoic.
Well, we take for granted our bodies, what we're able to do athletically and physically and live our lives, and when you get that taken away, you realize like, yo, that was what I really love doing. So that's definitely a blessing to be able to do the things that we do.
Yeah, man.
Cool, man. Well, thank you, Logan. Thank you, Logan, for coming on, brother. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. Super humbled.
Yeah, man.
See you soon.
See ya.
Yeah.
February's right around the corner, man.
Yeah. Feel it.
So, to all the viewers and listeners out there, the Uncivil Mentality Podcast, thank you for joining us. On behalf of myself, Erik Vidal.
And I'm Reilly. Kilbride. Get after it. Get in your gear. Start training. It can never be enough.